Today we will gonna cover the show American Dragon Jake Long from beginning to end. American Dragon Jake Long is one of the most beloved cartoons of all time. It was an American superhero animated series with total of 52 episodes starting in 2005 and ending in 2007. This animated series tells the story of 13-year-old Jake Long, who must balance ordinary adolescent transformation with the amazing power and ability to change into the form of a dragon, and also have to protect New York City and the magical creatures from the evil villains. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. The series starts when Jake Long, who has recently discovered that his mom's side of the family are part dragons. In other words, Jake started having the ability to transform into a dragon at the ripe age of 13. While this power had its moment, it also meant being responsible for the safety of every magical creature that lives in New York City. This takes a huge toll on our young protagonist, as the training he does with his grandpa is quite straight and awkward, since it involves using the dragon tongue to clean the toilet. One day Grandpa was captured by the huntsmen, their evil humans who want to take over the magical underworld. And guess what? The toilet cleaning training actually ended up being useful. Jake went the huntsman retreat and the days saved much sooner. Then later Jake finds himself falling in love with a beautiful blonde girl who seems to be way out of his league. He had plans on confessing his feelings for her, but he settled for a girl from the magical underworld. He really has poor choice in women, as the girl from the underworld turned out to be a soul-sucking monster. As soon as the light of the full moon touched her skin, she lost control of herself. After finally taming her with his dragon powers and putting each soul back in the body of the person it belonged to, the day was saved. And what's even better is that Rose regretted not coming to the dance party with Jake. She ends up taking an interest in him after all. Not long after, Jake's younger sister has her first ever loose tooth. The entire family is excited, as a dragon tooth is something that a tooth fairy rewards a lot for. Yes, tooth fairies really exist in this universe, guys. The only problem though is that the tooth fairy ends up being abducted and the kidnapper wants the dragon tooth. He tries to infiltrate the house with his army of tooth monsters, although he couldn't able to do that because it's protected by the spell cast by Jake's grandpa. However, Jake and his younger sister eventually come out of the house themselves, leaving them vulnerable for an ambush. Jake's sister gets kidnapped and everyone rushes into her rescue before the tooth could be used for evil purposes. Jake succeeds and the days are saved once again. In the next episode, Jake tries to get Rose to like him, so he comes up with a master plan to spend more time with her. He decides to become a part of the school play that she's in. He auditions for it and gets the role since his competition was pretty bad. Rose and Jake decide to rehearse the play, and Rose had other plans. She wanted to skip directly to Act 4, Scene 15. And that freaked Jake out a bit, and why? Well, it's because this scene is meant to be a romantic kiss. He starts acting weird and couldn't muster up the strength to kiss her. On the big knot of the plate, Rose and Jake both couldn't make it because Jake had urgent dragon business to handle, and Rose had a magical beetle mission to tackle. Jake has a really annoying teacher known as Professor Rotwood, and he believes in the existence of magical creatures. All the normal humans call him crazy for it, but he alone stands by his theories. One night he was lucky enough to catch Jake and his dragon for him. He took a picture, but it was so bad that no one was really willing to believe it was a magical creature. Professor Rotwood decided to give a prize money of $500 to anyone who could find evidence of magical creatures. Jake ends up losing a battle on his mission and lands right in front of his friends Trixie and Spot in his dragon form. Not knowing that it was Jake though, they decided to give the dragon to Professor Rotwood in exchange for some serious cash. However, just as Rotwood was about to show his discovery to the world, Jake transformed himself back into a human. Hence, nobody believed that the professor had a dragon captured. Although the police did see him have Jack captured, it landed him in the Spot in prison quite quickly. Soon after that event, Jake finally has to visit the Dragon Summit for the first time and be answerable to the Council of Dragons for his behavior. The council decided to put Jake to a test challenging 3 visibilities: his firepower, his wisdom, and lastly his ability to fly. He pretty much failed the first one with flying colors, but surprisingly he passed a test for wisdom quite easily, which really makes you question the validity of the so-called tests. Anyways, for the final test, it's a race between Jake and any opponent of his choice. Jake, being Jake, chooses the toughest opponent there is. Him and his opponent get ambushed by the Dark Dragon, who wishes to take over the human world. They both manage to escape, but realize that the Dark Dragon story is far from over for a change. Jake and his friends go on a school ski trip. Trixie and Spud were able to sense that Rose might be one of the huntsmen. While being able to perform a one-handstand isn't something your average teenager is capable of now, is it? However, Jake, being madly in love, just couldn't accept that fact. And then finally, during their encounter in the snowy mountains, the Hunts girl's mask got torn off. Jake couldn't believe what he saw. It turned out that Rose was indeed a huntsman after all. From this moment forward, Jake begins to keep his distance from Rose. One day, the food dog decides to let Jake in on one of the secrets he holds about Grandpa's past. Turns out, even though he acts like a wise man in front of Jake, he had a pretty cocky past. In fact, he was even conkier than Jake himself, if you can believe that. However, that all changed after his encounter with the Dark Dragon. Jake realizes that Grandpa has gone to the sewers with one of the council members who might be working with the Dark Dragon. Sensing that it might be a trap, he gathers all of his allies that he had made up to this point to go and fight the Dark Dragon. Even though Jake was weak alone with his friends by his side, they all managed to take the Dark Dragon down. Rose has nearly completed her training. The only thing that's left for her to do is to slay her very first dragon. The huntsman captured Jake and 5 other magical creatures together. They plan to let them free to have the cultural celebration of haunting. However, Jake managed to steal the keys from Rose and made an escape with all his new magical friends. As the only dragon in the group, he assumed the role of leadership. Together, they forged the plan to take down all the huntsmen. However, Jake ends up being caught at just as Hunt's girl Aka Rose is about to slay him. Jake transforms into his human form. Seeing his true form, Rose helped Jake escape, and that ends the episode and the season. After the last season, Rose stopped coming to school for months, and Jake had a pretty hard time getting over her. To be honest, he still wasn't over her. The boy had fallen head over heels for her. Then one day he had a creepy dream. Rose warned him about the evil plan of the huntsmen and told Jake to figure out a way to stop them. She also warned Jake to not try and help her as she was a lost cause. Jake tries to make a potion to get to Rose. However, one of the key ingredients had to be extracted from a magical monster that only appears in this world for a short period of time. Jake made no hesitation in taking that step. Food Dog and Jake's friends accidentally swapped that ingredient, and the cupcakes that their friends made ended up turning people into weird monsters. Jake bravely battles the monster to save the day and brings everything back to normal. Jake and one of his friends captured 2 of the goofiest members of the Huntsmen. They steal their costumes and sneak into their base, which is more like high school to tell you the truth. They discovered that Rose is a teacher there and she's teaching kids how to slay dragons. Rose figures out that Jake and his friends have infiltrated the base. She tries to help them escape, but Jake insists that he won't leave without her. Jake ends up being caught by the huntsman. The Huntmaster orders a fight to the death between the dragon, Jake, and Rose. Before they make it to the arena, Jake finally mustered up the strength to kiss Rose for the first time. They faced off in an epic battle and Rose came out victorious. In a shocking turn of event, everyone believed that Jake had met his end. However, it was all part of Jake and Rose's plan to trick everyone. Jake and his friends break free, but Rose makes a decision to stay with the huntsman. The good news in all of this, Rose gets assigned to the field once again. Only this time she's helping Jake in disguise, as she now realizes that magical creatures are all good people just like humans. However, the sad part is that now that the huntsmen are trying to keep a close eye on her, she tries to stay away from Jake as much as possible for his safety as well as her own. In the past episodes, Rose revealed that the huntsmen are planning a grand scheme. That scheme was to locate magical crystal skulls that grants the user one irreversible wish. Rose takes on the role of a spy helping Jake, and he lays hands on most of the magical crystal skulls. This leaves the huntsman in a pretty bad spot. However, the Hunt's master soon discovers that Rose is a traitor. He shows Rose a video of her parents. He promises to give them back to her if she betrays Jake. Conflicted internally, she half-heartedly decides to side with the huntsman once again. With the help of Rose, the Hunt's master manages to retrieve all of the lost crystal skulls. Armed with all of the magical crystal skulls, he ventures onto a tower filled with gargoyles. Apparently, it's the site where all the skulls can function. Jake ends up fighting Rose and loses since he doesn't want to kill her. This leaves the Hunt's master with the crystal skulls in his wish. However, in the very last moment, Rose betrays the Hunt's master again and wishes for the destruction of the entire Hunt's clan. Of course, this means that she herself would die as well. This was a reality that Jake couldn't bring himself to accept. Out of desperation, he made a wish for Rose to never be abducted by the Hunt's clan. Seeing no immediate result, he got angry and destroyed the skulls. In an unexpected twist, the next day at school, Jake reunites with Rose. But to his surprise, she doesn't remember anything about their past adventures or even who he is. And to top it all off, she's planning to move to Hong Kong, even though it meant that Jake would never see her again. He was happy knowing that Rose was finally leading the normal life that she always wanted. Not long after that, Jake and his family go to Hong Kong to visit relatives. But Grandpa is captured by Counselor Chang, a former member of the Dragon Council, who then summons the Dark Dragon. Jake had to contact Rose to help him free Grandpa. The only problem, she now has a normal life without any memory of her dragon hunter adventures. Jake tries his best to convince her. However, she ends up thinking that Jake needs mental help and calls the cops. Jake escapes them immediately and has no other choice but to poison all the dragons in the mountains to get his Grandpa back. After every dragon drinks the poison, the dark dragon reveals himself. To his disappointment, Jake tricked him. Instead of giving them the poison, he switched it with magical tea. As such, the good guys find themselves in an intense uphill battle. When hope was almost lost, Rose actually came to the rescue. As a trained dragon killer, her help was vital to defeat the dark dragon. After defeating the dark dragon, Jake asked how she remembered all of it, to which she replied that she discovered a picture of her and Jake together at her home, sparking a flood of memories. After that, they both kissed and lived happily ever after, and the series ends with a beautiful ending. There was also a crossover between Jake and Lilo in the series Lilo and Stitch. At the very beginning of the episode, Lilo decided to enter the local skateboarding competition in order to win a brand new skateboard, the Velociraptor 12-0, for her crush Keone. Before the event, she and Stitch discovered Experiment 316, whose pod was activated in a fountain after Stitch unstuck Lilo's skateboard from a straw umbrella. According to Jumba, Experiment 316, or Morpholomu, was a creature capable of giving anyone the appearance of someone else. Lilo used this power in order to enter the competition as Keone. In the meantime, Jake, Laoshi, Foo Dog, Trixie, and Spud arrived at the Kauai skate park. They were investigating reports of undisguised magical creatures lurking on the island of Hawaii. Actually, Jumba's illegal genetic experiments. Although Jake was more interested in winning the contest's grand prize. All of them separated to go on their own business. Laoshi became enamored with Mrs. Hasegawa. Trixie and Spud headed to the beach. Foo Dog went to place some bets on Jake while the latter signed up for the skateboarding competition. Lilo did the same, but soon realized that impersonating Keone was likely a bad idea when she earned a low score. She asked Morpholomu to change her into absolutely anybody else so she could start over, but registrations closed before she got a chance to sign up again. Elsewhere, Jake, having spotted Morpholomu with Lilo and mistaking the little red blob for a magical creature, transformed into the American dragon and got ready to pursue them. However, he was captured by Gantu, who mistook him for Morpholomu. Since Jake didn't show for the competition, Lilo decided to ask Morpholomu to turn her into Jake so she could enter in his stead. Meanwhile, Jake managed to escape Gantu's ship before he was transferred to Hamsterville's asteroid and went back to the skate park. However, Lilo had already taken his place and failed once again to score any points. Trixie and Spud grew suspicious of Lilo, still disguised as Jake, while she threw a tantrum. When Stitch told her that Morpholomu, who earlier got distracted by a rabbit, had been captured by Gantu, they knew something was up when Lilo panicked upon hearing Foo Dog speak. The real Jake in his dragon form arrived at that moment and engaged in a duel with Stitch. Before things got too far, Lilo managed to calm everyone down and explain the whole situation. Once everything was clarified, everyone decided to team up to retrieve Morpholomu. They traveled over to Gantu's ship and fought against him for Morpholomu. In the confusion, Jake and friends tricked Gantu into thinking he captured Morpholomu when in reality, Spud assumed the little red blob's form and got captured instead. Thanks to this, the team managed to get Morpholomu back and change Gantu into a little white bunny as punishment for all the trouble he caused. The gang then headed back to the skateboard competition, where the winner claimed the Velociraptor 12-0. Jake and Lilo were a bit bummed out by this, but were happy to have made new friends. They left on good terms and promised to see each other again soon. Meanwhile, Morpholomu was given a one true place at a costume store, where he morphed people into celebrities according to the photo he was shown. So that's it, and that's all. So if you loved the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let us know in which series you want the next video. Thanks for watching. Sayonara.